The Juniper Tree by Brothers Grimm. Long ago, at least 2,000 years, there was a rich man and a good and beautiful wife, and they loved each other dearly, but they had no children. They wished for them very much, but the wife remained always, as it were, unfruitful. At last, however, she once stood under the juniper tree in the yard, and felt so sad that she fainted. Then she went home and said, "Ah, if I had but a child, as red as blood and as white as snow." And while she thus spoke, she became quite happy and felt sure she should have one. And her time was come, and the wife bore a child as white as snow and as red as blood. And when she saw it, she was so glad that she died. Her husband buried her under the juniper tree, and he began to weep sorely. After some time, however, he was comforted and took another wife. By the second wife he had a daughter, but the first wife's child was a son, and he was as red as blood and as white as snow. When the wife looked at her daughter, she loved her very much, but she looked at the boy with deadly hatred, and thought whenever she could how she should get the whole of her husband's property for her daughter. And the evil one put it into her mind, so that she took great hatred towards the boy, and drove him about from one corner to another, and cuffed him here, and cuffed him there, so that the poor child went about in fear. When he came home from school, there was nowhere for him to be quiet. Once the woman had gone into her room, and her little daughter went up to her and said, "Mother, give me an apple." "Yes, my child," said the woman, and gave her a beautiful apple out of the chest. And the chest had a great heavy lid with a great sharp iron lock. "Mother," said the little daughter, "shall not brother have one too?" This made the woman angry, but she said, "Yes, when he comes out of school." Now as she saw out of the window that he was coming, it was just as if the evil one came over her, and she snatched at the apple and took it away again from her daughter, saying, "Thou shalt not have one before thy brother." She threw the apple into the chest and shut it. Then the little boy came in at the door, and the evil one made her say kindly to him, "My son, wilt thou have an apple?" And she looked wickedly at him. "Mother," said the boy, "how dreadful you look. Yes, give me an apple." Then it seemed to her as if she must persuade him. "Come with me," said she, and lifted up the lid of the chest. "Take out an apple for thyself." And while the boy was stooping inside, the evil one prompted her, and crash, down went the lid, and off went the little boy's head. Then she was much frightened, and thought, "If I could but make them think it was not done by me." So she went up into her room to her chest of drawers, and took a white cloth out of the top drawer, and set the head again upon the neck, and bound it with the handkerchief, so that nothing could be seen, and set him on a chair in front of the door, and put the apple in his hand. After this, Marlinchen, her little daughter, came up to her mother, who was standing by the fire with a pan of hot water before her, and said, "Mother, brother is sitting at the door, and he has an apple in his hand. And when I asked him to give me one, he did not answer me, and looked so pale." "Go again to him," said the mother, "and if he will not answer thee, give him a box on the ear." So Marlinchen went and said, "Brother, give me the apple." But he was silent, so she gave him one on the ear, and the head fell off. The little girl was terrified, and ran to her mother and said, "Alas, mother, I have knocked my brother's head off." And she wept, and could not be comforted. "Marlinchen," said the mother, "what hast thou done? But be quiet, and let no one know it. It cannot be helped now. We will make him into black puddings." And the mother took the little boy and chopped him in pieces, put him into the pan, and made him into black puddings. But Marlinchen stood by, crying and crying, and all her tears fell into the pan, and they had no need of salt. When the father came home, he sat down at the table and said, "Where is my son?" The mother brought in a great dish of black puddings, and Marlinchen wept without ceasing. The father again said, "Where is my son?" "Ah," said the mother, "he is gone into the country to his mother's great uncle. He will stay there a while. What has he gone there for? And he never even said goodbye to me. Oh, he wanted to go and asked me if he might stay 6 weeks. He will be well taken care of there." "Dear wife," said the man, "how badly you have done. You ought to have asked me first about it." "Oh, never mind about it," said the woman. "Do eat something." "Ah," said the man, "I feel so sorrowful. It is not right. He ought to have said goodbye to me." With that he began to eat and said, "Marlinchen, why art thou crying? Thy brother will certainly come back." Then he said, "Wife, the food is delicious. Give me some more." And the more he ate, the more he wanted, and he said, "Give me some more. You shall not have any of it. It seems to me as if it were all mine." And he ate, and threw the bones under the table, till he had finished it all. Marlinchen went to her chest of drawers, took her best silk handkerchief out of the bottom drawer, and gathered all the bones from beneath the table, and tied them up in it, and carried them outside the door, weeping tears of blood. She laid them under the juniper tree in the green grass, and as soon as she had done so, all at once she felt lightened of her grief and wept no more. And the juniper tree began to move itself, and the branches waved together, then moved asunder, and so on, just as if they were clapping hands for joy. After this, a mist came round the tree, and in the midst of the mist there burned a fire, and out of the fire there flew a beautiful bird that rose high into the air, and after it was gone the juniper tree remained just as before, and a handkerchief with the bones no longer lay there. Marlinchen, however, felt as light and happy as if her brother were still alive, and went merrily home and sat down to dinner. The bird flew away and lighted on a goldsmith's house and began to sing, "My mother, she killed me. My father, he ate me. My sister, little Marlinchen, gathered together all my bones, tied them in a silken handkerchief, laid them beneath the juniper tree. Kiwit, Kiwit, what a beautiful bird am I." The goldsmith was sitting in his workshop making a golden chain. When he heard the bird which was sitting and singing on his roof, he thought the song very pretty and stood up. But as he crossed the threshold, he lost one of his slippers. However, he went right up the middle of the street with only one slipper and one sock on. He had his apron on, and in one hand he had the golden chain, and in the other the pincers, and the sun shone bright up the street. He went right on, stood still, and said to the bird, "Sing that song again." "Nay," said the bird, "I do not sing twice for nothing. Give that golden chain, and I will sing it again for thee." "There," said the goldsmith, "there is the golden chain for thee. Now sing me that song again." Then the bird came and took the golden chain in his right claw, and went and sat in front of the goldsmith and sang, "My mother, she killed me. My father, he ate me. My sister, little Marlinchen, gathered together all my bones, tied them in a silken handkerchief, laid them beneath the juniper tree. Kiwit, Kiwit, what a beautiful bird am I." Then the bird flew away to a shoemaker and lighted on his roof and sang, "My mother, she killed me." The shoemaker heard it and ran out of doors in his shirt sleeves and looked up at his roof, and was obliged to hold his hand before his eyes lest the sun should blind him. "Bird," said he, "how beautifully thou canst sing. Sing me that song again." "Nay," said the bird, "I do not sing twice for nothing. Thou must give me something. I have not got anything so beautiful as thou, only my red shoes, if indeed I might have them." So the bird came down and took the red shoes in his left claw and flew up again on the roof and sang, "My mother, she killed me." When he had finished, he flew away and seated himself on a mill, and he sang, "My mother, she killed me." The miller heard him and ordered all his men to run out. Then he went out himself and saw the bird, and he called to it, "How beautifully thou singest. Sing me that song once more." "Nay," said the bird, "I do not sing twice for nothing. Give me the millstone, and I will sing it again." "Yes," said he, "if it belonged to me only, thou shouldst have it." "Yes," said the others, "if he sings again, he shall have it." Then the bird came down, and all the millers helped him up with the stone. The bird put the chain round his neck, and the shoes in his claws, and flew away to his father's house. In the room sat the father, the mother, and Marlinchen at the table. The father said, "How light-hearted I feel, how happy I am." "Nay," said the mother, "I feel very low, just as if a heavy storm were coming." But Marlinchen sat weeping. Then the bird came flying, and as it seated itself on the roof, the father said, "Ah, I feel so truly happy, and the sun is shining so bright. It is as if I were going to see some old friend again." "Nay," said the wife, "I am terrified, my teeth chatter, and I feel as if there were fire in my veins." And she tore open her bodice even more. Marlinchen sat in a corner crying, and her head was wrapped in a handkerchief. Then the bird began to sing, "My mother, she killed me." Then the mother stopped her ears and shut her eyes and would not see or hear, but it throbbed and throbbed in her head, just as if the storm were coming. And her cap fell off her head, and she tore her hair out and threw it away and sat there and looked very strange. The bird sang again, "My mother, she killed me." Then the father sat up and laughed. Ah, how beautiful is that song! The sun shines so warm and it smells so much like cinnamon. Marlinchen wept and laid her head on her knees. Then the bird sang once more, "My mother, she killed me." Then Marlinchen sprang up, and she felt as if she were going into another world. And the bird threw down the golden chain, and it fell just round the father's neck, so that it fitted him exactly. Then he stood up and put it on, and he felt all at once so light-hearted and happy as if he were young again. The bird sang once more, "My mother, she killed me." Then the red shoes which he had thrown down fell in front of Marlinchen, and she jumped up and put them on, and she stood up quite lightly and danced and leaped for joy. Then the bird sang once more, "My mother, she killed me." Then he threw down the millstone, and it fell on the mother's head, and she was crushed to death. The father and Marlinchen heard it, and went out and were released from their troubles, and then they saw smoke and flames and fire rise up, and when that was past there stood before them their little son. And he took them both by the hand, and they were all three very happy, and went into the house to dinner and ate.